Hi, everybody. I'm Thomas Rissling, and thank you very much for joining us again today on another episode of Face to Face. Despite the short hiatus after the pilot episode, I had a couple things come up, but today I'm very, very excited. I am joined by the true star of the movie Trivia Face-Off, Mr. Hillbilly Scribbs. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. Howdy there, Kurt. It's good to be here and good to get a chance to talk to everybody tonight.
And I think everybody is looking forward to the chance to talk to you. You have quickly taken over the movie Trivia Face-Off. You're quite a character. Is this you, Hillbilly Scribbs? Is this really the person you are?
I think so. I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know who else would do this silly stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't got no driver's license or birth certificate, but I am the Hillbilly Scribbs.
So despite no driver's license, no birth certificate, you're fairly confident that you are Hillbilly Scribbs. So, you know,
as long as I can remember.
So before we dive into movies and movie trivia, let's talk a little bit about you and your history, the history of Hillbilly Scribbs. How did you end up here, and what is your story?
Okay. Well, I'll start from the beginning. And I told some of this, I think already in some promos, but maybe everybody ain't heard it yet. But I grew up back in the woods up on the mountain, and we grew up, it was my Pap and my Granny May, and then a whole bunch of us cousins. And we mainly did like farming, raise livestock and some vegetables. But we also, on account of Granny May making some really, really sweet moonshine, we would sell the moonshine too. So that's really all there was to do up there. Every now and then, Granny May would save up some money from the moonshining, and she would go into town to the pawn shop and get us a surprise for all of us cousins.
Oh, nice.
And on one trip, she came back and she had gotten a computer, and she also brought back some internets with it. And we got into that and started looking around and kind of got excited and thought we would celebrate. So we got on there and tried to look up instructions on how to have a proper hoedown. We went down a lot of the wrong paths first, and I don't really need to go into what all we saw.
The internet is a dark place. We can.
Yeah, we've seen some things we can't unsee. Yeah. Granny don't let us get on there by ourselves no more, and that's probably a good thing. But she decided to help us learn a little bit about how to do a hoedown. Yep. And, we ain't good typers and we ain't good spellers. I know that probably comes as a shock to you folks. Yeah. So we were looking up the hoedown and we ended up finding the schmodown. And you know what? We fell in love with this thing from the start. We all growed up watching the professional wrestlers, and out on the homestead, really all we got to do other than work is sit around and watch movies on the video cassette recording machine. Yeah. So this was like perfect for us. It was like two things that we really loved the most. So we started playing along with the schmodown, and we found out we was pretty good. So Granny May saved up some money, and she decided that she was going to send one of us to Hollywood to get on the schmodown.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So we had a contest because all of us cousins wanted to go, but there was only enough money for one of us. So we had us a contest, and you'll never guess who won.
I'm going to go ahead and place my guess. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Was it you?
No, it wasn't. It was my cousin Van Doren, but we found out later he had been cheating. So I came in second place and I got to go. So they gave me the money and sent me to go to Hollywood. And the hillbilly ain't so good with directions. I ended up in Canada for a while, and it's a nice place. People up there really do like the letter A. They say it a whole lot.
This is true.
And I stayed with my cousin Doug and my cousin Bob for a while.
Are they hockey fans by chance?
They are. I don't really understand half the things they're talking about.
That's fair.
A lot to do with like hoses or something. I don't know. But I got tired of them telling me to take off, so I took off. And I headed back to what I thought was Hollywood, but I ended up in Florida for a little while. I ended up in New York for a little while. I ended up in Tennessee for a little while. And those are all stories we can get into on another time. But I ran out of money in Texas. So that's where I am now. I've been here for a bit. I'm actually in a part of Texas called the Hill Country, which, works out with me being the hillbilly and all. But while I was here, I kind of got a little down. The hillbilly got a little blue. I had wasted all the money that Granny Mae gave me, traveling all over the place and not getting where I was supposed to be going to. So anyway, I was feeling down, but I was still watching the Schmodown. And you know what happened?
What was that?
I was still watching the Schmodown, and I found out that Schmodown was going to come to Texas.
Did you go?
And the Schmodown came to Houston. They came and did a thing at that Booker T. Wrestling Fellers place down there.
Yes, yeah.
And you know what? The hillbilly walked and hitched his way to Houston, and I went and watched the Schmodown live. Now, I was pretty starstruck. Well, I didn't really tell the Mr. Christian Harloff or the Mr. Mark Ellis that I was ready for the Schmodown, but I just soaked it up and had a good time. But I did meet some people in the audience. Turned out there was this feller sitting next to me that was talking about doing something called a fan league.
Okay.
And I was kind of listening into him for a little while, and he finally turned to me and introduced himself, and we struck up a conversation, and he actually pointed me toward the movie Trivia Face Off.
And who was that? I don't mind me asking.
His name, it's that Big Sal feller.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Big Sal. Yep.
Mr. Nick Carley. Yeah. So he was a real nice feller. He got me all pointed in the right direction. Showed me how to use one of these mobile telephones to get on there. And I then got a hold of the Mr. DJ Snacks, and he got me right in here. So that was a few months ago, and I guess that's my story, how I got here.
So, I mean, your passion for movies is very obvious. It's kind of was instilled in you at a young age, along with your cousins, siblings. The whole family are big movie fans. So your passion
absolutely
is unquestioned. But what are some of your strengths and weaknesses in the form of movie trivia? What are you good at? What can we expect from the hillbilly?
Well, I can tell you what I'm not good at.
What's that?
Is stuff with numbers and letters.
Okay.
So like the movie release times, I'm not really good at.
Okay.
And the movie's quotations, I'm not really good at. But as far as what I am good at, pretty much anything that ever came out on a video cassette tape, I'm all right with.
Now, anything on VCR?
Yeah, that's right. Movies that come out since they stopped making those, I kind of struggle with a little bit.
Yeah. So anything that's a little, it can't be too old, but it has to be far enough back that it was on the VCR for you.
Yes, sir. Those are the ones I do the best with.
So, we talked a little bit about this journey that you went on that's kind of revolved around movie trivia.
It was an odyssey.
Yeah, it is an odyssey. That's what we'll call it, the Hillbilly's Odyssey.
All right.
So, do you ever worry that the Hillbilly Odyssey may have sidelined some of your maybe your education or some of your other goals in pursuit of this movie trivia? Because this sounds like it's almost been a years-long goal for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely times when I know that it would behoove me to know more, as far as with the being able to read and the writing and use like machines and stuff that people use. But I like to keep it simple, and I wouldn't trade some of my upbringing for anything in the world. We spent a lot of time watching movies, and this right here, this is coming from the hillbilly's heart. There are so many lessons that you can learn from a good movie. You can learn all about what the world is around you. You can learn all kinds of life lessons. You can also learn, the rules of what not to do with a mogwai.
you're retaining very important information here from the films you watch. That's what I can gather from this.
I think so, yeah.
So with your strengths and weaknesses discussed, a little bit of your story, what are your goals here within the movie Trivia Face Off? Your goal, if your goal is to get to the Schmodown, what's your goal here? Let's start here.
Well, that's a good question. I would say that my goal here is, well, for one, just to have some fun, enjoy life and enjoy myself while I'm here. But, I'm here. I might as well try to win some of these things and maybe even get one of them championships,
That's the ultimate goal here. I think if you were aiming for anything less, it'd be a mistake.
Yeah, it could happen. And I hear rumors. I ain't nothing, no concrete evidence yet that's shown itself to me. But I do hear rumors and whispers that there might be some more divisions popping up at some point. And, I might find one that's a good fit for me at some point.
That's a great attitude to have. Kind of test the new waters when and if they become available. So, are there any specific competitors that you've seen within the movie Trivia Face Off that you'd like to face off against?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not that scary doll lady. She gives me the EBGB something fierce, and I don't know if I can make the whole match. I'd probably go change bridges and hide in the corner or something. But she's got some rascals that run around with her. I could probably maybe do something to one of them in the trivia ring. Maybe. Well, who's been saying some words to me sometimes is that Mr. John Mariano, the Sandfeller.
Okay, John's a fairly solid competitor, so that's barking up a tall tree there.
Well, yeah, I know he's good. I've seen some of his matches. I know he ain't no slouch.
Nope. I don't think anyone here is. I think we're very lucky to have a league, and that must be somewhat daunting as a competitor to walk into a league like this and see such talented competition all around you.
It really does, and that's why I lean on the first thing that I talked about is just having a good time.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. It's a passion for it.
You do have to earn your way. You have to take your lumps, and you do get some losses, and the goal is to eventually get you some of them W's.
Absolutely. So, we all know what your goal is. Let's win some matches. Let's look for a title. Let's find some interesting competition.
Shoot, yeah.
I want to shift this conversation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think most competitors and almost everybody involved, the viewers, have seen your investigative research.
Yes.
I think some of us are starting to think that there might be a conspiracy afoot. Can you tell us more about that?
Mr. Sir Thomas, hold on just a second.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about this stuff.
What's going on?
If we're going to talk about this stuff, we got to take precautions.
I apologize, Mr. Hillbilly, for not wearing my own. I know that must.
You got to be careful. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who might be listening on your thoughts, who might be. You just don't know.
Do you think the tinfoil hat protects you from somebody listening in on this call?
I'm hoping it does.
Okay, let's go with that.
I'm thinking there may be some science involved. I don't really know much about science, but I think that it might be some involved. I think it works.
You're edging into the world of science for the first time here with the tinfoil hat.
Yeah, well, I do like the science fiction movies.
So some of us are starting to think that there's maybe a conspiracy afoot, despite all the different versions of your investigative research. It's becoming very interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? And if you've kind of started to tie anything together? I know there was some reference to Illuminati there even at one point.
That's a great question, Sir Thomas. You can see this thing behind me.
I can.
It ain't no decoration. That is weeks and nights of blood, sweat, and tears, lack of sleep, researching and investigating to find the truths to the questions, the answers to the questions that maybe folks ain't even thought to ask yet,
Yep.
What I can tell you is this. I have it on good authority that there are a bunch of groups popping up here in the face-off.
Yep.
I think we all know that there's a dollhouse.
Yep.
But my researching is telling me that there may be some other ones popping up.
Ooh, so you've found some insider information here, have you?
Right. Well, I got a feller who works at a government agency.
Okay.
He works at this government agency. The code name for the location is the Alta Vista location.
Okay.
And he actually works with their supercomputer there called the Hotbot, and he puts in a lot of the files. He ain't really told me his real name. He just told me to call him Jeeves. So I'll ask Jeeves from time to time what he's been putting in the Hotbot at Alta Vista, and he's been telling me a lot of stuff. Some stuff that will like blow your mind.
And is any of this information you can share with us right now?
Well, there's the groups that I talked about a while ago.
Yep.
There is also some alien involvement. We already know, on account of I'm always asking for information about people and not getting any answers back for my show. We know that there's a lot of them alien pod people and maybe some Skrulls that have infiltrated the face-off.
So this is more of a process of deduction.
Yes, more of them than you know. It's scary.
There's more involved here and pod people and Skrulls than we know. Oh man,
there are a lot of them, and they're in cahoots. They're in cahoots with the UFOs and maybe the time travelers. And I feel like I don't have it on authority yet. It's just sort of like a little tingling I get down in my tailbone.
Yep.
But I feel like there is maybe one super secret puppet master in charge of all of it. Ooh. And underneath him is this group calling themselves the Illuminati. And these guys, they got their fingers knuckle deep in every pie out there.
Okay.
They're just into all of it.
So usually conspiracy theories don't go hand in hand with well-liked people. In this case, that is not the case. You're very well liked here amongst the competitors, the staff, everybody who's involved. Why do you think that is, and what does it mean to you, Hillbilly, to be so beloved by the community?
Well, I think as far as the conspiracies and stuff goes, I think the folks out there just know that deep down I'm trying to help them and find out the truth and share it. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm kind of a simple guy. I don't mean no harm. I've been in trouble with the law since the day I was born. No, I'm just kidding. That's a song about some of my cousins.
You seem like a far too nice of a person to be in trouble with the law, Mr. Hillbilly, and I don't think we need to have the discussion about
No,
those.
I ain't never been in trouble with the law. They ain't found me because I stay off the grid.
There you go. Does the tinfoil hat help with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it helps them from listening in. It helps them not to listen in on what I'm thinking and saying.
Okay.
But I mainly stay out in the woods. I got a campsite, and I move it around from time to time.
So there's been some rumblings around you lately. You know, we know you have a match coming up at the end of this month. Can you talk at all about what you're looking forward to in that match? You know, what do you think of your opponent? What do you think of your chances? And where do you want to go from immediately after that?
That's a good question. The match I got coming up at the end of this month, it's one of them geese-tacular matches. And I'm going to be going up against this fella calling himself the King of the North. And
fellow Canadian?
Yeah, it's either that or a Game of Thrones reference. But or maybe both, I don't know. But anyway, he's a pretty good competitor, but he seems like a nice feller. I've talked to him a couple of times. And I've watched his matches so far that have come out in the singles division. Yeah, he's no slouch. He's pretty good. But I'm looking forward to doing some geese-tacular matches because those are the movies that like I really enjoy. And we had like a big science fiction section in the movie video store back home.
I think you could really excel at geek-tacular. I think that's something that you could do very well. Yes, geek-tacular.
Oh. It ain't about geeses?
Not that I know of. I mean, unless that's one of the divisions you were discussing earlier that they're talking about adding in. And I have to be honest, as a Canadian, being that we have geese named after our country, I have to say that's a pretty narrow category. So let's maybe not assume it's going to be where your competition lies. I think it's geek movies, like you said, science fiction, comic books, those types of things. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, Thomas, we might just have to agree to disagree.
Okay, let's agree to disagree, Hillbilly. What do you have going on right now outside of the Movie Trivia Face-Off, and where can the people find you on social media?
Oh, that's a good question. I was going to write all that down.
That's okay. That's okay. If Mr. Hillbilly, we understand that writing is not your forte.
No,
If you'd like, we can share these things in the bottom. I can find them for you, and we can share these things here in the description.
Yeah, I know you can look me up as a scribbler on most stuff, but there may be some other scribblers out there too. So let me get you the details after our interview, Sir Thomas.
Okay, and we'll share that in the bottom. We'll tweet that out with this as well. You can, of course, find the Movie Trivia Face-Off on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as on Twitter at the Movie Face-Off, and all of the links for that will be in the description below. To get involved, either as a competitor or a contributor, simply subscribe to the $2 tier at the Movie Trivia Schmodown Patreon. Jump in their Discord server and into the Fan Leaks channel. Simply ask for an invite, and fairly soon you will receive one. It only took me a couple hours, so you won't be waiting too long. Of course, you can find me on Twitter and all those great places and on my own shows. And Mr. Hillbilly, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a really fun interview. There was no contentious environment. It was very enjoyable.
Well, thank you, Sir Thomas. Thanks for having me.
I think this has been illuminating for the viewers. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Wait, illuminating, wait, that Spaniard feller's in there, and maybe that elk guy. Oh, I don't know about Mr. TGH Snacks. And I know that Mickey Mouse feller's and Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboy guy. Illuminating. Are you in that Illuminati?